Mollie, the Super Bowl is in the rearview mirror. Record number of viewers for Fox, 127.7 million viewers. I didn't think they were going to get there as I was watching this blowout of a game. Eagles had control the whole time. Were you surprised that Fox was able to get a record number?
In the third quarter, it was what, 34-0? You would have assumed people would have turned the game off.
It was like, what, 24-0 at halftime. And that's where it peaked. I mean, the peak number was right before halftime, before Kendrick Lamar came on. Competitively, yeah, there was no reason to keep watching that game outside of waiting for the ads in the second half.
I'm not surprised, though. There's a lot of storylines, there's a lot of narratives. If you look at the numbers historically, which, Austin, I know I don't need to tell you, it's been going up, up, and up, except for 2021 when you had that weird kind of COVID dip. The huge impact of that was Tubi. Tubi, they were predicting around 8.5 million viewers on Tubi. It hit 13 to 15 million.
I'll be honest, I was very shocked. And you and I have talked about, like, Tubi and how many people were watching that. I was kind of shady on, like, are people really going to find the Super Bowl on Tubi? You were much more bullish on that. I got to give you credit for that. But I thought 8.5 was a high mark. To see it get almost closer to double that sort of audience, that really helped put Fox over the hump here, getting past CBS's record number last season.
I remember when I was down in Charlotte a couple weeks ago and I said the Tubi number is going to do well. It's going to be impressive. And you said, you pulled The Office. You're like, nobody knows what Tubi is. I'm like, that's not true.
I think they know what Tubi was, but I don't think it was a go-to as much as maybe I thought. But this was a free way. If all you have is internet at your house, all you need to do is download Tubi. You got the Super Bowl for free. You didn't have to have a YouTube TV or a Hulu Plus TV to get Fox that way. People found it. It was easy to find. It was marked Super Bowl right there on my TV, which is like a Roku TV. They did make it very easy, and it showed up in the numbers. Something you talked about, Mollie, about this growth of the audience, since 2020, 2021. A lot of that obviously also has to do with the increase in that out-of-home that you and I have kind of talked about that was introduced in 2020, but it was only in around 66 some odd percent of markets until this season, right before the Super Bowl. 100% of markets covered by out-of-home by Nielsen. And I think that also helped put Fox over the hump here.
Going back to Tubi, Austin, I want to explain why I was so bullish on it. You think about the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, and hell, even the millennials too, that are cord cutters, cord nevers, don't want to pay for a traditional cable bundle or even the $80 for a YouTube TV or Hulu with live TV. Tubi is free. It's completely free. And this is not an ad for Tubi, I will just say that. But you can watch it on your computer, your phone, your iPad, your TV. They were offering the Super Bowl for free. I actually had my younger brother text me because he frequently begs me for my YouTube TV login. I'm like, if you want to split the cost, sure. Otherwise, no. But he was watching it on Tubi. It was the first time he's used Tubi, and there's been a lot of experiences like that.
Well, it's like you said, it was his first time using it. It was my first time checking it out. I guess I was not as bullish as you were because of the discoverability issue. There really hasn't been big time sports or much any sports on Tubi, but I think this is part of the evolution that you wrote about in the magazine this week about how Fox is going to be preparing for a bigger streaming future.
Fox hasn't told me this, so this is just me purely speculating, but Tubi could have been a very good test for them for their DTC tech because they built this out. It was going to be used in venue. And now we have this D2C product launching at the end of the year. Tubi doesn't live stream. This is new for them. And they handled 13 to 15 million live streams with very little lag. I don't know about you. I watched the third quarter entirely on Tubi. I had no issues at all, and I didn't feel like I was behind the main broadcast.
Mollie, I also want to hit on the halftime show number, a record 133.5 million for that Kendrick Lamar show. That was up around 3% from Usher last year. I thought it was incredibly well produced. Didn't recognize a lot of the music, but my focus group, 11, 12, and 13-year-olds, they recognized more songs than I did. Said it was an okay show. What'd you think?
I don't know a ton of the music either, but I have a massive amount of respect for Kendrick. I mean, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner. First of all, I thought it was a fantastic show.
Looked great, yeah.
My entire TikTok feed is just reactions to the halftime show. I really liked it. I did spend about 30 minutes on the phone with my parents explaining to them what was happening. I think bringing out Serena Williams was awesome. She's also from Compton, like Kendrick, and that gives that extra little sports angle. There was this whole idea, or whole speculation of if he would play Not Like Us, which is a pretty controversial song, but it did just win Record of the Year and Song of the Year at the Grammys before the Super Bowl. So Of course he played it, and of course it went insanely viral. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
I don't think I really understood until afterwards, until I saw the reaction to Serena showing up, how much shade he was actually trying to throw at Drake. So I was kind of impressed that he pulled that off at the Super Bowl.
Oh, he looked straight in the camera and said, "Say, Drake, not only am I watching your downfall, but I orchestrated it." And it was excellent.
Well, Molly, something that also surprised me is that while the overall Super Bowl did set a record, the Spanish language broadcast was actually down a little bit. You had the combination of Fox Deportes and Telemundo this year, down somewhat from what Univision TUDN was able to draw alongside CBS last year. Curious to see where the Spanish language audience goes into the future.
It didn't surprise me that much. I mean, how much of the Spanish language audience is going to be interested in the Eagles Chiefs matchup? Yes, two marquee brands, but not necessarily teams that will have kind of a larger Hispanic audience. Austin, I've got to give a little bit of nod to my advertising roots. What was your favorite Super Bowl commercial?
For me, Molly, it was the Duncan ad. Ben Affleck coming back with that with his brother Casey this year. Of course, the cameo by Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. I love the humor in that one. That was the winner for me.
You need to go watch the full 7-minute segment, Austin. They made it an entire mini movie.
Got to check that out.
I love the Nike ad. I talked about that in my newsletter this week. I thought it was really poignant and it's personal to me, but I love the emphasis on women's sports in this Super Bowl. It's become mainstream. But also, I loved the Budweiser ad. I am a sucker for those horses. Budweiser ran a 60-second, but if you look at the full ad, it's about a 90-second, and it's storytelling. Listen, this little horse, he just wanted to help. He got the keg there before the rest of the big Clydesdales did. It actually made me go back down a rabbit hole, and I watched the 2014 spot called Puppy Love. And I showed it to my partner yesterday, just sitting on the couch, and there's tears dripping down my eyes from this 2014 Super Bowl commercial, which I think is my favorite one of all time.
Tough to go wrong with Little Horse. It's always going to be a tearjerker.
Austin, I want to stick with the NFL. So there's news now. The NFL media, ESPN, there's some negotiations going on. What do you make of this?
You know, we've gone kind of back and forth on this for years now, something that our colleague Ben Fisher has written about. What is going to happen with these NFL media assets? So we're talking about NFL Red Zone Channel, NFL Network, NFL Films. They've kind of been on the block, this asset, a bunch of assets, for a few years. ESPN was in talks, then it kind of cooled. Then when you had the Paramount Skydance merger, there was some speculation as to whether that might come into the fold as they renegotiate that deal once the merger closes, because, as everybody knows, that opens up the CBS NFL deal anytime there's a parent company change like that. Now you have ESPN maybe having newer negotiations. You got flagship coming up. You need content. NFL content is king out there. Plus, there are also some live games as part of this. You still have a lot of those 9 a.m. type games that are on NFL Network. Those might also help ESPN in the long run.
I think it makes a lot of sense if ESPN took control over the NFL's media assets. As you mentioned, flagship, they want that content, especially with things with MLB being up in the air. They do need content to fill it.
All right, Molly, let's move off of the NFL. The Super Bowl's done. Got a big weekend of sports. One of the tentpole events, the NBA All-Star Game. NBA regular season viewership down around 7% headed into this. ESPN, ABC, probably flat. TNT, True TV, a little lower, dragging down that overall average. But, interest around the NBA does seem to be pretty good. You have League Pass viewership, that's up 6%. Subscriptions are up around the same amount of number. Where can the NBA improve in this back half of the season?
Well, All-Star is also sold out, and it sold out earlier than ever. They got a new format this year. It looks like a very optimistic second half for the NBA. You have All-Star sold out, which I reported earlier this week. It sold out earlier than ever. High demand for inventory. And then you also have some marquee matchups coming up, potential marquee matchups, pending AD Luka on February 25th. It'll be the first time they've played each other since the trades. But the storylines are good. The Knicks are playing really well. There's more interest in the NBA than I've seen in recent history, just general public interest.
I tell you one thing that's shaping up to perhaps perform well is the play-in tournament later on. I mean, we had this a couple of years ago when you had the Lakers and the Warriors playing in that thing, and it helped set a record for that. You got some very popular teams like the Suns and the Lakers kind of down in the standings in the West. That could really lead to some really popular faces in that play-in tournament, and you could see some really big numbers there. Molly, something you've also written about this week is how Amazon is getting out there ahead of upfronts, particularly around the new NBA deal. It's going to be starting on Prime Video in the fall. What are you seeing there?
I spoke with Amazon late last week and into this week. They really view the NBA as kind of the flagship tentpole for their new conversations. They're approaching the upfront as a multi-sport pronged approach. Whereas in the past, they basically just had Thursday Night Football, right? So year one, advertisers were a little hesitant, like, oh, Amazon, they're new. We don't know what to do here. Like, let's see if this works. They've been building up and up and up. And now they have this like lineup of sports properties. Like they've been with the WNBA since 2021. So they're not new to basketball. They know how to do basketball. And what's also interesting with the WNBA, Amazon told me they're already in conversations for 2026 when that new media deal kicks in. They're going to be able to fully produce their own WNBA content instead of licensing production. They're already selling it. It's crazy.
You talked about the other properties they've had. Yeah, it's NASCAR.
NWSL.
Something we were able to report late last week is they're going to have that tentpole NFL wildcard game through the remainder of their NFL rights deal too.
Absolutely. And when I was speaking with the advertising team, they view that NFL wildcard game as something that can just grow and grow and grow. They use the NFL to kind of expand the rest of their sports portfolio. So they're not selling the NFL or the NBA individually anymore. Small packages, yes. But they really want to be able to sell multi-sport packages. And that's something new for Amazon. What's also interesting is they've created this new first-party technology where they're going to be able to measure sponsorships in the same way they measure 30-second ads. So if someone signed on as an NBA sponsor, which they're really hoping to do, especially because they're building their own NBA studio in Culver City, and so there's a lot of opportunities there, they'll be able to measure the impact of that sponsorship in the same way they can measure the ROI of an ad.
Well, I'm just hoping that we're able to get actually some WNBA audience numbers off of Amazon. They have not done any sort of Nielsen measurement with that property in past years.
Amazon also did tell me, though, that they've seen a lot of impact with the WNBA, and it's a really good property for them. They told me that 80% of people that watch the WNBA on Amazon don't actually watch other WNBA games. They just watch them on Amazon, which that, as an avid WNBA fan, I can't imagine that. But I'm not going to tell Amazon their data is wrong.